Last night, the NBA draft finally went down, and it was as entertaining and action-packed as promised. There were plenty of pleasant surprises, a few head-scratching decisions, and a lot of joy spread around while watching some young men accomplish their dream of making it to the NBA. Of course, with all of this, some teams naturally come away with a better night than others did, and that's exactly what we'll be discussing today. In this video, I will be going through the 3 teams that I believe were the biggest winners of the night, along with the 3 teams that I believe were the biggest losers of the night. Criteria for a discussion like this can revolve around the sheer talent of the player selected, trades made using these selections, or missed opportunities that were presented to them, and they all have differing reasoning. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. We'll start things off with the winners of the night, and the first one up here is the Detroit Pistons. When the draft lottery went down, many Pistons fans were reasonably disappointed with landing the 5th pick in the draft because after an entire season of tanking, in a year where top 4 prospects in particular stood out above the rest, they assumed that being 5th would result in them missing out on those players. Well, the Pistons can thank the Sacramento Kings for this because Jaden Ivey ended up falling to them at number 5, and they did not hesitate to take him there. Ivey balances out their young backcourt alongside Cade Cunningham for the future as a player that can push the pace, get out and make plays in transition, and finish strong around the rim, while Cade can be the primary operator when the game slows down in half-court sets. On top of that, the Pistons also made a trade that landed themselves Jalen Duren, who somehow slipped to the 13th pick despite being a clear top 10 talent in my opinion, and Duren is going to thrive alongside the Cunningham-Ivey duo who love to run pick and roll sets, as Duren is a strong, mobile big man that definitely poses as a threat around the rim above the basket, and then defensively, his length and athleticism give him tremendous rim protecting potential. The next winner of the night, from my point of view, was the Houston Rockets. The Rockets had a huge night last night and continue to stack young talent onto their roster to give themselves one of the brightest future outlooks in the league today amongst rebuilding teams. Throughout the entire pre-draft process, most assumed that Paolo Banchero was going to be available for them at the 3rd pick, so some Rockets fans may be disappointed with him being selected by the Magic first, but honestly, I like Jabari Smith's fit in Houston much more overall. The Rockets have a tantalizing young backcourt already with Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., who both handle the ball a ton while possessing scoring talent. Jabari Smith comes in and gives them much needed defensive boost as someone who can defend all 5 positions comfortably, and then offensively, Smith is much more suited to be in a secondary scoring role that can knock down perimeter shots at an efficient rate without taking away touches from Jalen Green's improvement. On top of that, Tari Eason and Ty Washington are 2 players that they were also able to draft in the 1st round, and both of those were solid prospects with versatile offensive games and an edge and motor to them on both ends of the floor that you love to see young guys compete with. And while it could also be argued that they were both lottery talent at certain points of the season, so all in all, I loved where the Rockets went last night. And then the 3rd big winner of the night for me was the Portland Trail Blazers. Again, this is my opinion on the matter, but I came into the draft very high on Shaedon Sharpe and his potential, and Sharpe is who the Trailblazers selected with the 7th pick. The Trailblazers are in a spot right now where they're trying one last time to build something significant around Damian Lillard, but realistically, it looks like a rebuild is coming sooner rather than later for them, so Sharpe is talented enough where he could learn and adjust to the NBA level of the game in his early years while the team is trying to win, but then he has the talent to possibly end up being the best scorer that was available in this year's draft, and if the team does end up rebuilding, they have an all-star caliber potential guy that they could build around with him and Anthony Simons. Sharpe is a big 6'5" guard that can jump out of the gym and finish strong at the rim. He's a natural and fluid ball handler that gets to his spots and knocks down jumpers, and he can heat up in a hurry. He gives the Blazers the best of both worlds, and because of that, this was an outstanding selection. Now to move over to the losers of the night, the first one up for me is the Sacramento Kings. As I mentioned earlier, the Sacramento Kings passed on Jaden Ivey with the 4th pick, allowing the Pistons to snatch him up, and that really sticks out as a potentially huge mistake. I'm aware that Jaden Ivey had made it clear that he wasn't the biggest fan of going to play for the Kings in the first place, but that doesn't excuse the situation. If anything, it makes it an even bigger loss for Sacramento as a franchise to have top prospects like that being verbal about their unwillingness to play for you because of your history of messing up previous drafts and failing to develop the talent that they do select. Ivey not wanting to play for them speaks loudly about the way that the Kings are viewed, and their current approach in trying to build a team ready to win now just does not seem plausible based on their current core of players. And while Keegan Murray, who they did select with the 4th pick, is more ready to produce immediately as a 23-year-old player, he isn't the kind of player that makes it worth passing on potential all-star talent for in the short term. The next team up in the losers column from last night is the New York Knicks. The Knicks entered the night owning the 11th pick in the draft, and they ended up trading it away. In return, they potentially got 3 future first-round picks to use, which you're probably thinking is an outstanding haul, but when you look closer, you come to realize that each of the 3 picks have protections on them that greatly reduce their value to either being at the end of the first round or deferred into the second round, because the teams that they will be coming from will be good enough for those protections to come into play. The Knicks are not a good enough team to be passing on lottery talent in a draft like this, and while they were able to shed Kemba Walker's salary in the process of the trade, their plan moving forward isn't the most inspiring thing either. Their big goal for this offseason is to be able to throw as much money as possible at free agent Jalen Brunson. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Brunson's game, and he has proven to not only be one of the best 6th men in the NBA, but an outstanding point guard period, deserving of a payday. But he's not an all-star caliber player, and the Knicks are about to treat him like he is, so for that, they land on this list. And finally, the last loser of the night we'll be discussing is the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves came into possession of 2 first-round selections last night, and honestly, the fact that they walked away with Walker Kessler and Wendell Moore is pretty underwhelming. Kessler, I'm not even convinced, was first-round talent as a center who does block a lot of shots admittedly, but he also commits a lot of bad fouls. He's on the slower side of things as a big man, which is something that makes it very difficult to play a guy his size in today's game, and he's not a threat to stretch the floor with his shooting, so a lot of his weaknesses happen to be weaknesses that phase out big men in the NBA rotations. Wendell Moore isn't a bad selection by any means as a guard that plays hard on both ends, but he doesn't necessarily excel in any one area, just being decent at a lot of things, so you can't help but walk away thinking that they squandered a pretty promising opportunity. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think won and lost the draft last night. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.